Can everyone hear me? Okay. So let us begin today's session on Python programming language conducted by Asia Speaks 2020. I am Ashmita Datta, a student of Dr. J.J. Magdum College of Engineering. And today I'll be taking the Python programming language basics and some of the core concepts of programming. And I hope you can follow along, and please stay for the rest of the 2 hours so that you learn a little bit, so that I can teach you something about the Python language. So without much delay, let us begin. Okay. So the first slide. Okay. So before we begin, let us know a little bit about the Python programming language. It was created in 1989 by Guido van Rossum, who is a Dutch programmer. And the name Python was inspired from a British comedy series known as the Monty Python's Flying Circus, which is a 1970s show. And based on this, the programmer named the language Python. So this is just a brief, short history. So next we have the Python versions and development environments. So Python doesn't really have a single version. Every year it releases some new versions. So in the 1994, the first version was released, and 2000, the second version, 2008, the third, and on 2017, 2.7, which as of now is considered dead, as in it is not used anymore. Python 3.4 or above, 3.5, 3.6, 3.8 is the recommended version for the coming years. And the development environment includes PyCharm, Python IDLE, which you can see here on the right-hand side of your screen, PyDev with Eclipse, which is a plugin for Eclipse IDE, so that you can run Python programs there, and the Spyder Python editor. Okay. So the introduction I would like to say something about Python is that it's a multi-purpose language. By that I mean you can do web programming, you can do GUI, you can do scripting, and then it is interpreted. So most of you who are not familiar with the concept of machine language or the high-level language, interpreted simply means that a computer understands machine language only, that is zeros and ones. But the program that we write are usually on English language, so that the computer doesn't understand. So in order to translate this language, there's a software called the compiler and the interpreter, which translates this high-level language into the machine code. So the Python uses interpreter, which is a line-by-line execution of the program. That is, after each line of the Python program, the computer will translate it into a machine code and the output will be there. Python is strongly typed and dynamically typed. What does this mean? We'll see shortly. And it focuses on readability and productivity. Python is extremely beginner friendly. The syntax is very easy. It is easy to follow. And you can really, as a beginner, you can really start your programming career or your programming journey with Python. Python features: no type declarations. If you are familiar with C programming, which I hope most of you are, you'll remember that there is a concept called declaring a variable. That is, when there is an integer, when there is a character, you have to explicitly define it first before using it. That is, you have to tell the computer that I'm using this integer, I'm using this character value. However, in Python, no such thing exists. So what does this mean? We'll also see shortly. Then we have the garbage collection. Garbage collection means in C or C++ program, if you close the window sometimes after doing a program, there's a possibility that your variables are still residing on the memory, which takes a lot of memory space. However, in Python, there's a feature called the garbage collection. That is, when you are done with your program, the memory automatically deletes all the variables and objects which we were created in the RAM, that is a random access memory, for the temporary purpose, and it cleans the memory. Next, we have fast development, which is obviously because it's very fast. Python is a fast language. The syntax is very simple, and object-oriented language. So what does this object-oriented programming means? We'll also see in the coming slides. Uses of Python. Python is the 21st century's most famous language along with JavaScript and Java. And it has been in top of the Stack Overflow for many years because it is used hugely in the field of data analytics, artificial intelligence, which is a booming market as of now. So if you are looking forward to do a career on artificial intelligence and machine learning, you can learn Python, and I think this will be very beneficial to you. Then we have something called natural language processing. So what is natural language processing, you ask? I hope you have all heard about Siri, which is an iPhone's assistant. So what it does, it takes our natural language and converts it into the language with the machine understands. So Python also has NLTK library, which is usually used for natural language processing. And then we have database access like SQL Server, MongoDB. All these database can be used from Python. Okay. Moving on, there is a very important concept in Python called indentation. So here you can see most languages don't care about indentation. If you are familiar with C programming language, you'll remember that there was a hectic task of putting brackets everywhere, curly braces. As you can see in this place, these kind of curly braces define the block of code. Most humans do. We tend to group similar things together. What Python does is it uses this semicolon in order to recognize the block of code which will come inside the statements. So in here, you can see there is a C code. So it doesn't care if the printer was here or if this printer was here also, it will not generate any error. But in order to do 2 lines of code, you will always need a braces. But in Python, these kind of freedom is not there. What you have to do is, once you got the semicolon, the cursor will automatically take you to a space. This can be a tab. Probably this is usually a tab space, which is like 2 through 4 spaces, and it will take you to these lines. So any line under this space will be considered as if, and else likewise with everything. So basically what you have to understand here is nothing complicated. This is usually done by the IDLE itself, that when you enter, there's no requirement for curly braces. As we go on, as we do some new programs, you will come to know about this. Next, we have a very important part, which is the variables. Okay. So since in C programming, I told you earlier that you have to declare the variables of what data types you're going to use. It is just a simple way to tell the computer that, hey, Mr. Computer, this is the program, this is the integer I want to use. Please give me a memory location so that I can use this A or B. These are some of the variable names like 1, 2, 3, such values you need. But in Python, the moment you assign a value to a variable, it automatically takes in the value. Okay, I'll just show you one small example. Here on your screen, you can see that I have written A is equals to 1. And when I show 1, it shows 1. Now, if shown a character A would have shown A. What does this mean? That we don't have to tell in Python programming to the compiler that we are going to use an integer value or we are going to use a character value. It automatically takes the value and converts it into the required data type. So just a small idea of what it means here, you can see some of the coffee jars. Consider that the variable name are the name tags. So this is maybe a turmeric, this is sugar, this is coffee, this is rice, anything. And think of the value 1 here as the turmeric in this jar. And the memory location is the jar which is holding this value. The variable simply means this name tag. A way to identify the memory location in the computer, because obviously the memory location, the name of the memory will be something very big. It will be in binary codes or something like that. So for simplicity, the purpose of variable was given. Okay. Everything is an object. Everything means everything, including functions and classes. So most of you might not be familiar with object-oriented programming. So what object-oriented programming allows us to do in simpler terms is that instead of using a long, huge programming like C code, it allows us to break the programming into smaller parts and write it down. Consider this. For example, you have a car and then you have some Audi, Nissan, Volvo. In real world, a car will have a tire, a flashlight, a roof, a window, but this is not same for all cars. An Audi will have a different design, Nissan cars will have different design, Volvo cars will have different designs. However, there's one thing which is similar, their behavior. They all run on petrol or diesel, they all run on roads, they have a common set of behavior, but they have a little bit different characters. What does this mean? That it has taken the characters from a class of cars and it has created the objects, that these are the different types of cars which has taken their blueprint from the car class. So that is what here in Python it means, that the data types that we're talking about, like integers, strings, or character value, they are not actually data type, they are called objects of class integer. Okay, for a small example, I'll show you what it means. Here, what is a, yeah, it's holding a character A. Okay, let me give it something like 12. There is a function in Python which allows us to see which class does a variable belongs to, and it is called type. I will just pass the variable A. Okay, so what is it showing me? Class. It is not showing me integer, it is not showing me data type, something like that. It is showing me class. What it means that the A, the value A is the object of the class integer. So that is what I wanted to say, that in Python, everything is an object. Nothing is like a free flow diagram. Everything comes under, moving on to the next one, basic operations. Assignment. We all know assignment is always from left to right because it's not from right to left, right? Like size is equals to 40. If I write this, my value into this size, and you see we get 40. And then there's a way of assigning multiple variables to a single value. If by any chance, if you are familiar with C programming, you'll know that if I had to give three different values to us as a, I mean, same value to three different variables, B equals to 1, C equals to 1. So instead of writing 3 lines of program, Python allows us to do it in one line. How? A is equal to B is equal to C is equal to 1. So here you can see that A got the value 1, B got the value 1, and C got the value 1. So Python allows us to do single line assignment for a single data value for multiple variables. Coming up next is arithmetic operations. So here you can see this is an idea. So before I begin, I introduced this. This is nothing but a shell. What it allows us, this is a perfect example of an interpreter. As the moment I type a line of code, it immediately shows me the output. So this is what the interpreter is doing. Each line conversion to from high level language to a machine language. So this ideally can be used as a calculator also. How? Suppose I did 2 plus 1, I'll get 3. Suppose I do 22 into 3, I will get the following number. So this can be used as a calculator as well. Okay. Yeah. So the Python, the arithmetic operations that we have in Python are same as any other mathematical, like plus, which is suppose 1 plus 2. Then we have the negative 2 minus 1. We have the minus, subtraction. 6, and we have division. Now, in Python, there are two types of division. How? Let me show you. Suppose 4. Usually, this is the sign of division. 4 divided by 2. What did we get here? 2.0. You might be wondering, because 4 is completely divisible by 2, right? Because this is called true division. This will give you the actual value of the Python division. But in order to remove this decimal part, there is something called floor division. So 4 double front slash 2. Okay. After this, when I use this double front slash, you can see that this decimal, and I only got the part of the decimal, I only got the part which was not a part of the decimal. For example, 3 divided by 2. Ideally, it will give me 1.5. Yes, it is correct. But if I don't want this 1. And if I write 3 double front slash 2, I will get 1. So it simply removes the part of the decimal and it only gives me the quotient. Okay. Another thing is there is exponential. Exponential means to the power. So, for example, 2 to the power, okay, to use this to the power, we have double asterisk, that is this, 2. So this, what does this means is 2 to the power 2. The answer is 4. Suppose 3 to the power 3, we should get it 27. Yeah. So this is the, so this double asterisk, if you put it single, then you'll get the multiplication, not the exponential. If you put it double, then you'll get the to the power 3 to the, like any other programming mathematical notation or programming language, follows the rule of BODMAS, that is a bracket part which is solved first, and the division, multiplication, etc. So, for example, 1 plus 4. And for simplicity, I'm just taking the floor division, which will not give me any decimal values, into 3. So most of you know the answer for this will be 4 divided by 2, which is 2, into 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So if I press enter, yes, this is 7. Because like any other mathematical assignment or expression solving part, even Python use the BODMAS rules. Okay. Next we have strings. So what is string? We have hello world. I think my technical team is here. So, if there's any kind of audio glitch, in that case, please be focused on the screen. Please don't leave the session. My technical team is here. So, if there's any issue with the audio, please be focused on the screen because we are facing some issue with the internet here. Okay, am I audible? Okay, yeah. So as I was saying, hello world. Okay, let me assign this hello world to a variable A. Okay. I hope you can see my screen now. Okay, yeah. So A is equal to hello world. Fine. So can we see what is the class of A now? Type of A is what? String. str stands for string. String basically means a word which comes under the double quotation marks or the single quotation marks. Okay, next we move on to integers and floats. This is the first part of the data type of a integers and floats. So in Python, there's no limitation about size of the integer that we enter. For example, ideally in C, this should have been overflowed because this has more than 10 characters or something like that. But in Python, there is no such thing. It will obviously take 4 to 16 bytes depending on the size of the integers, but there is no such restriction. This floating generating values also. For example, z is equals to 1.222. You can do this. Yeah, see, it is not generating error because Python has that facility that to allow that big of a number in its memory. Okay, right here on the PPT, if you focus, there are 3 lines of code. 1.3 E7. E means to the power. That is, suppose Q is equal to 1.3 E7. What will the value of Q? Yes, you guessed it right. 3 followed by 6 integers, because this basically means 10 raised to 6. We had done this in our maths. 1.3 into 10 raised to 7 will give us this multiplication. We don't have that much line to write, so we use this E. Okay. Sometimes there is a requirement to do typecasting. What is the meaning of typecasting? It means to convert one class of a data type to another class. For example, I have B is equal to 1.2, but I need to convert this to integer. That is, what I will do is B is equal to, I use a function called int, and I'll pass my one. You can pass B also, it's okay. And when you see B, you see just 1. What it did is it converted it to integer value. So the decimal part was removed. Next we have float. Likewise, suppose I have C, which is 200, no, for example, 1. And I need to use it as a float. So what C is equal to float, and I'll pass my same variable. And when I see C, okay, 241.0. Since we don't have anything after this or any kind of, because this is a simple integer, it allowed us to convert it to float, and it just added a decimal part. And then we already saw this exponential thing. So even this is a very big number. So you can see it also didn't generate any error, and it gave me the answer without telling me that there's a memory overflow or something, which we would have usually faced in C or C++ or Java. So the interesting part of Python has begun now with the string. The first part that we are going to understand here is string. So what do we mean by string? String basically means like hello. So what is this? It's a collection of alphabets. Hello, then there's a space, there's a special symbol. So these are nothing but the different types of characters that exist in our English language. So all these characters, when we combine together, they give rise to something called string. So here on your left side of the screen, you can see that, okay, forget this part, look at this diagram now. We have HELLO. Okay, let me get this here. HELLO. Okay. So what? So if I do the type of A, what do I get? Obviously, str. So I have A. Now you might be wondering that what can I do with this string? Okay, well, friends, there are many things that can be done with a string. The H, there's something called indexing in Python, which allows us to index each characters with some numbers. These numbers are a simple representation of memory location. So a string will be placed in a memory location 0. This is not 0, obviously, this has some memory address, but for simplicity, the programming language allows us to address it as 0. So we have H in 0th position, E in 1st position, L in 2nd, and next L in 3rd, and 0, and this O in 4th position. So what I mean by this is, if so you saw this 2 square brackets. What it allow me to do is get a value by putting the, if I put 0 here, I got H. What does it mean? That the first position, that the 0th position, it always starts with 0, it never starts with 1. Please remember that. The 0th position holds the value H. Okay. And now if I put 1 here, I will get, yes, E. So this likewise, I will put, if I put 4 here, I will get O. So this basically allows us to address each part of the string individually. position in the memory. Okay, in the bottom you can see there are negative numbers. This is a very special feature of Python which allows us to do negative integration. Starts with -1, which is the last character, represent the last character, and then there's -2, -3, -4, -4, 5. It will go from right to left. So if I do A, I will get 0. Sorry, O, which is the last character of the string hello. Now, if I do A -5, obviously we'll get H, because if we start from the right position, the -5 will be the position of H. So sometimes we don't know the length of the string. These kind of things happen. Sometimes we just need to get the last character. So instead of counting the length of the string and finding out the last character, you can simply use -1 and you get the last character. Okay. Now you can focus on this part of the thing. Concatenate with plus. Okay. What does concatenation means? To join. For example, I have a sentence. Suppose I have something called hi. Simple. But now I want to put my name or someone else's name. So what we can do in the same place, you can say f is equal to hi, which is obviously, and you can use the plus symbol to put another string. And if I put a little bit space here, so obviously if I don't put the space, I'll get hi, whatever my name is the same one. So suppose I write hi John. And now if I see F, F becomes hi John. What does this plus sign did? It basically joined two part of the string. So this is also called concatenation in programming. Okay. We have already seen subscripting of strings by using this index position. So you can also do it explicitly also. Instead of using a variable, suppose I have declared hello. This is not assigned to any kind of variable. But if I put two square brackets in front of it and I write -1, I will get 4. So Python allows that also. It doesn't require at all for you to put any kind of variables in the interpreter. You can simply use these kind of sentences and also get these. Okay, next that we have here is length of the word. Okay. Sometimes we need to find the length of the a sentence or a word. So if there's an operation for that, which is a len, which is short form for length. So now if I so this has how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 characters. So it will return 5. So length returns an integer, which is the length of the character or the string. So you can assign it to a variable also. Suppose t is equal to len of ron. In case there's some kind of audio or video glitch, please focus on the screen. My technical team is here to help me. Okay, where was I? Okay. So t is equal to len ron. So what do you think is the value of t? Obviously, it will be 3, which is the length of the string ron, that is ron. So now if I see t, obviously it shows me 3. Instead of this, because this is an interpreter, this is allowing us to simply putting the value. But when you are actually doing a programming, you have to use the print statement. And if I print t, so it's a good habit to use the print statement. I am just showing you for purpose of simplicity. But if you put print does nothing but it prints the value which will pass here in the console. Okay. Yeah. The one line at the last of this PPT, you can see immutable, cannot. What is the meaning of immutable? Suppose I take a value f. What is a hi John? Now, if I do something, okay, I'll show this example after sometimes when I show you this string methods. What it simply means that once a value is assigned to the string, there is no possibility of, you know, editing it. That is, this is a fixed value, just like 12. You cannot assign this 12. It's a universal truth, right? So immutable means you cannot assign any value. It will remain. You can only do some kind of operation with it. You cannot assign anything back to f again. So when we are doing string operations, we'll understand what it means. Oh yeah. So here we have a long list of string operations which are very important. So okay, we'll begin this slowly. Okay. So in the first line, you can see I've written can use single or double quotes and 3 double quotes for multi-line string. Now you see sometimes I'm using this double quotes. Sometimes I'm using single quotes. So what it means is that Python has no restriction to using whatsoever. But in case you are using, suppose I have a sentence like, hi, this is John. John's. Okay. So you see, we need to use an apostrophe. But if I had used a single quote here, I would have get an error. What error? This quote, this single quote, and this single quote basically means that hi, this is John ended. The next part is actually not a. Why? Because these are similar type of codes. There's no the Python language cannot differentiate between this. So in order to make the compiler understand, if you are using a single quote inside of a string, you have to use the double quote outside the string. So now if I use double quote, see, hi, this is John. I got this singular quote. If you are using double quotes inside a sentence, for example, again, I'll take this. For example, this is John's. He said, suppose I'll put hi. So ideally, when we are writing this sentence, we will use double quotes, right? But you see, the color of go here is changed. It is little bit, it is not green anymore. It is white. What does this mean? That the string actually ended here. This is the this part is a syntax error. This is an error. If I press enter, see, I got an invalid syntax. Why? Because the quotation marks has recognized only this part of the string. And if you are putting any number of double quotes here, it will consider it as a error. So how to resolve this issue? Even for this issue, the given something called the triple quotes. So now if I write, I just copy this. Now instead of these uh, double quotes, if I put single double quotes. Now you can see, hi, this is John's. He said, don't worry about this. I'll explain this. So what you have to do is there's a hierarchy. There's a singular quote, there's a double quote, and there's a triple double quotes. So it depends on what you are using inside the string. If you have something like the double quotes inside the string, you cannot use the double string outside. That the sentence ended here only. Why we are getting this line here is this backslash is something known as escape sentence, escape character. Sorry. So this is nothing but the comment. So what is a comment? This comment will not execute anything. This is only for the programmer's efficiency, that if you want to understand some line of code later when you are visiting the code again, the comment is used just to help the programmer or the next programmer to understand what is going on the program. So don't worry about this. This will not do anything. So you can use this for explaining many things also. So escape character. So what is this escape character? This backslash. Now if I use print instead, print, okay, what I will do is I will take this line and I will assign it to a variable, suppose talk. Talk is equals to this. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll print talk. Once you print talk, you see these kind of additional quotations are not there. So it basically removes the unnecessary things and prints only the things which are required. So this is John's, he said, go. So all these additional escape characters, these are basically raw string, because since we are not assigning this to any kind of variable, that is the reason we got this output. In all characters to variables, and we use the print statement to print these kind of sentences. Okay, this was all on the quotation hierarchy. Next, we have string methods. Okay, so here we see a lot of string methods. Don't worry, ideally you don't have to memorize this. There is always Python documentation where you can go and revisit and understand. And if in case you forget, there's always a room for going back and learning them. Okay. So what I will do is, I'll open a new screen here. Fresh screen, I'll close this. Okay, so yeah, okay. Let's take a sentence. Let's take a string, for example. Let's take a name. So let's take Harry. Okay, let's keep it short. Suppose there's a sentence named Harry Potter. Now you see, this is not a way we write names. Obviously, the first character it's a pronoun, so the first character should be capitalized. So there is a method here called the capitalize. It converts the first character to uppercase. So if I write like this, name dot capitalize, you see I got. But wait, remember I told you about the string being immutable? Now if I type name, you see the Harry Potter, the H part is actually remaining the same. Exactly. If you use any kind of method on strings, this will not actually impact the string itself. It will only help us to change it, and you can give it to a next variable. You cannot actually edit the same string. So name, after doing, even after capitalizing the name, the actual content of the string did not change. So now if I take A is equals to name dot capitalize, yeah, then A will have the value Harry Potter, but the name will actually not have any impact. So this is the meaning of immutable. That is, no kind of editing can be done on the part of the data type. So this was all about capitalize. Okay. So you might be wondering that the new terms of when I will explain functions, I will explain you the meaning of this part of the string. But as of now, understand that this is a method. It is also called a method, which is another name for functions. But since we are using object-oriented language, in object-oriented programming, functions are called methods. Okay. Next, we have count. Returns the number of times a specified value occurs in a string. So now if I say name dot, and now I'll pass, suppose I have to count the number of R. 3. HARRYPOTTER. How many R's are there? 3 R's. So 1, 2, 3. So it will give us the number of times a specified value occurs in a string. You can pass T. You can pass E also. You see, we have one E here at this quarter. So this was all about count. Next, we have find. Searches a string for a specified value and returns the position of where it was found. So we all know that strings basically have some kind of indexing like 0, 1, 2, 3. So if we want to find the position of any kind of first position, remember that the first position of any kind of character in a string, then we can use the find statement. So what we will do is name dot. Suppose I want to find the position of 1. See, don't get confused about the double quotes and single quotes here. As long as I'm not using anything inside, this is all acceptable. Okay, what did I get here? 4. Start counting from this side. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that Y is actually in the 4th position. Obviously, it is in the 5th position, but when you do the counting from 0, it is in the 4th position. So it is giving me 4 because of the position of the string in the memory. So now if I say name dot find, so what will give me 0? Because H is in the first position. So it is giving me H. Now if I do, what do we expect? there are how many R's here? 1, 2, 3. So it will not return me the position of all the R's. Find only returns the first position of R. And what is the first position of R? 2, 0, H is 0, A is 1, and even though there is other R at the back of Harry, but the find will not give you these positions. For that, you have to explicitly do some other kind of logic. Ideally, find finds the only the first returns the position of where it was found. Next, we have something called is alpha. Is alpha returns true if all characters in the string are in alphabet. So now if I write name dot is alpha, so I hope you are getting confused. Like, how come these all are in alphabets, but I'm getting false? This is because of this space. Can you see the space? This is a space. This is not an alphabet. So now if I do another sentence, do another word, it only it gets, suppose I do goat. And now if I do d dot is alpha, I will get true. Why? Because it needs all to be alphabet. It will not take any kind of space, forward slashes, number, or anything. So ideally, if you have a single word and if you are applying is alpha here, you'll get true. Otherwise, for any kind of alphabet, let it be, even if there are no numbers here, still because of this space, it will return me false because space is not a part of the English alphabet. We have is unknown returns true if all the characters in the string are alphanumeric. So what it means is that even if I do D is unknown, I will get true. Yes, there is alphabet or numbers, even though there is no number here, but at least it has all the alphabets. So we have that. So num dot is unknown. It has the alphabet, but it has the alphabet true. But you see this space is creating all kind of problems because this space is not a part of the English alphabet. It's not part of the Arabic, the number system as well. So that is why it is giving me false here. Now if I change this name into something like this, Harry 1, 2, 3. Now if I say name dot is unknown, it will send me true because obviously it has numbers, but since it has no special characters like slash, at the rate, space, it is giving me true. So this is the purpose of is unknown. Next we have is digit. Returns true if all the characters in the string are digits. See, read this part of the definition. It said all. All have to be digit. All have to be characters or in the string are alphanumeric. For any kind of special characters. So now if I write name is digit, get false. Why? Because I have a part which is not a digit. This is an alphabet. So this will not be considered as a digit. But now if I say, suppose phone, PH is equal to, so now if I say PH dot is digit, true. Why? Because all the part of the string is, most of you, some of you do this mistake. You do this. Then you expect that you get an answer. But remember, you'll get not true because this is not a string. This is an int. Don't do this mistake of putting digits in case you're using digits for the purpose of printing or something like that. Don't use them as integers because if you put them as integers, these methods will not be there, available. You can see an attribute error is there. Int object has no attribute is digit. That means integer doesn't allow us to identify. Integer is already a digit. So in order to identify digit is explicitly reserved for string only. So if you want to use this, you have to declare this as a string by putting the quotation marks is digit. Now you'll get true. Next we have upper. converts all characters to uppercase. Sometimes you have to convert all the character to uppercase. So again, let us take name here. So now everything is in a lowercase, that is small alphabet. Now if I write name dot upper, I will get everything in capital. Again, I'm just writing this sentence in a without assigning it to a variable. Again, the name is not changed actually because strings, as we know, are immutable. We cannot actually change the value of the string. We can only give it to a next variable. Then we have lower name dot name is already in lower. Okay, so what I will do here is I will take this upper and assign it to a new name. New is equal to name dot upper. So now new will have this value. But name will not have name will always keep this value in its memory. Harry Potter. So now I write new dot lower. Again, new did not change. New is always it will keep its value because it is immutable. If you want to assign it to another value, you have to do new dot lower. So again, if I get new one, yeah, now I got the lowercase alphabet. So this is the little bit restriction of string is that actual contents of the string cannot be changed. You have to keep on assigning it to a new value. So that is little bit there. And next we have replace. Returns a string where a specified value is replaced with a specified value. Suppose I take a name here. Suppose I take Harry Potter. And by mistake, instead of double T, Harry Potter, suppose I spelling mistake, you can see we don't need so many. What we will do is name dot replace. What is the meaning of replace? Old to new. So the old part, which is the which part is the part that we don't need? This triple. What we will pass here is the part of the string which is wrong. And then we'll pass R. Okay, now you see we got Harry Potter and only a single. But again, the main string is not changed because the main string cannot be changed because strings are immutable. You can only assign this part to a new value. For example, new name. Don't give space between variables, that is not allowed. You can use underscore. And now it has a new name. Yes, so this is the purpose of replace. It takes a part of the string and converts it to a new string, new substring. Suppose we have an error. Triple R was a part of the string which was mistaken, but now we took R. Okay. So I think this much part this much methods for strings are enough, and I would like you to go ahead and discover more of strings. There are a lot of things that you can do with strings. Okay. So the next thing that we have is logical comparisons. I will again minimize close this ideally, and I'll open a fresh one. Okay. Okay, right. Logical comparisons. Here, okay, forget this part. Look at the right side of this presentation. You can see I have three tables here. I have X, Y, X or Y, X, Y, X and Y, and X not Y. If you have, you might have studied this in your class 10th or class 12th, but in semiconductors or something like that, we had this kind of truth table. But even if you have forgotten this, let me give you a refresher. So what is this? This is nothing but Boolean values. In computer, we know we have nothing but zeros and ones. I'll use comment here, otherwise it will generate an error. Zeros and ones, right? Zero is always false. One means true. Anything which is not zero actually means true in terms of. So the OR table takes two values or three values in that case, and it gives one of them is true, it will generate a true value. So you can see false or false will generate false. False or true will give true. True or false will give true. True and true will definitely give true. So if you can't remember the truth table, let me give you a small trick. What you do, consider OR as plus. On the side, I'll do this. 0 plus 1. What is the meaning of 0 plus 1? It's 1. 0 plus 0 means 0. So for simplicity, if you take false as 0, 1 as true, you can remember this, and plus as OR. Okay, addition. That's what I'm trying to say here, that if you do this, then you will get a value called 1. So false or true, you will get true. So for that purpose, if you are forgetting the truth table in some case, just remember that OR can be considered as plus. Just add, consider false as 0 and true as 1, and add those two numbers or whatever. Next we have AND. X and Y. AND is a little bit more stricter. What it does, that only if all the values are true, it will generate a true value. Otherwise, it will generate. So in order to remember AND, consider this as 0 into 1 means 0. Yes, you got it. This is how you differentiate between AND and OR. AND means both the values should be true. Otherwise, if one of the value is false, it will generate false. But in case of OR, that is not the case, because OR actually signifies the addition operation. So again, if I write 1 into 1, that is true and true. That is the thing about. Again, if I do 1 into 0, I get 0. So this is what you can remember. So this was, even if it's getting complicated, there's nothing to worry about this by practice. So I'm just trying to say that for simplicity purpose, OR and AND can be considered as addition, and AND can be considered as multiplication. And then we have something called the NOT operation. NOT is something like negation. This truth table, the table here is a little bit wrong. What I mean to say is that if we have false, not false will be true. If we have true here, not true will be false. Consider this error here. Don't consider this. Say that true, it will be false in case of not. So not what it does at negative of a number. How will you remember? Suppose not like -1, but suppose the opposite side of whatever it is. For example, true. What is the opposite of true? False. False, the opposite will be true. So that is the part of not. If it looks complicated, it's okay. We will, by practice, these things can be learned. You can look on this part of the slide, bool type. So this is what this is called is a Boolean algebra. Boolean is named after Dr. Boole, and he created these kind of algebra to do logical comparisons. So bool type. Now you can see here two types of two equal signs. Is not type operator for comparison, and or not type. Okay. So now let's move on to another section, comparison. Okay, A equals to 1, right? What does this mean? The value 1. But am I comparing A with anything? Does A contains anything? So suppose I have to compare A with B. So suppose B is 2. Now I want to compare A with B. How will I do that? Should I write this A, B equals to same? No, this is false. But there's an operator in Python programming which is the double equal to. Don't give space here. So this is okay. Now 1, because A is 1 and B is 2. And this is nothing but comparing two kind of values. It can be string, it can be list also. I mean, but this operator, the double equal to, it compares two values and gives true or false. Then we have something called is. So if I write A is B, it's false because A is not B, A is 1. Now if I say A is equals to 1 and B B is also equals to 1. And if I write A is B, I will get true. Why? Because 1 is obviously equal to 1 values. So you can use is also in place of double equal to in if you have is not. If I write A is not, what should it will give me false. Okay, why? Because not B basically okay, A is B. Obviously A is B, that means it's true. But since we are using not here, we are getting a false value. So that is also a one operator is not is double equal to and or not. Okay, suppose I say okay when I will do the if comparison that time I'll use these three terms. Now let's move forward. There is something called arithmetic comparison also. So now if suppose A is equal to 90 and B is equals to 80. So, and if I write greater than B, obviously it's true. A is greater than or equal to B. It's true again because at least it's greater than even though they are not equal to. And if I write A is less than B, false because A is 90 and B is 80. Less than or equal to B because this is logical comparison. It is comparing two values and it's giving me the true or false output. Next we have, okay, this we already done, equal to difference, A is double equal to B and A is not equal to B. The way you read it, A is not equal to B. This is what exactly this line means. A is not B. So A is not equal to B. Yes, A is obviously not equal to B. I'll get true because A is 90 and B is 80. So that is why I got true here. But in this case, it was false because A was equal to B. Okay. Now we have something called list. So what is a list? We all know what is a list. We all go to shopping. We all go to, and when we go to shopping, we have a list with us. First item is egg, second item is milk, something like that. So list is basically a way of grouping things of different kind. Maybe it's an integer with strings, strings with characters, ordered collection of data. What is data in computer? You ask. Integer, strings, these are nothing but data. So list allows us to arrange this kind of data, maintain them, and help us to again manipulate them in future. So if an ordered collection of list is nothing but an ordered collection of data. It uses square brackets. A is equal to 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll do this. Data can be of different types. Very important. Lists are mutable. Remember in term when I was teaching, talking about strings, I kept on repeating the strings are immutable. Well, lists are not immutable. What we meant by this, we'll see later. Same subset operation as strings. Yes. List also follows the system of indexing. So, okay, I'll declare a list here. For example, A is equal to 1, 2, 3. And suppose I said, so this is a list of numbers and one fruit. It's okay. It allows us to use different types of data. You can use float also in future. So now the first value 1 will have the index position 0. The 2 will have 1. The apple. Okay, here, okay, I'll just do it in terms of this diagram. A is equals to 2, and then maybe I'll use apple, and then I'll have 1.2. Okay. So A, okay, the 1 will be in the position 0, 2 will be in 1, apple will be in the position 2, and 1.2 will be in the position 3. List also follows negative indexing. So the last element will have -1, then -2, -3, and -4. So it is accessed in the same way using these square brackets. So A to 0, I'll get 1. So what is in the 0th position? 1. If I do A, -1, I get the last 1.2. And if I do A, what is 0, 1, 2? Okay, if I do 2, I because in the 0th position we have apple. Okay, so this is it is same as string, but we have declaration. Okay, now we have the list methods. So list, okay. Suppose I just take a list of integers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you check the type of L, it will not show me integers, it will show me list. Because now this comes under the class of list. So list is holding an object L with the values 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now if I want to add one new value at the end of this list, so append adds an element at the end of the list. Suppose I want to add I'll pass the value that I want to print, insert, and I'll say 5. And now if I do L, I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4. Earlier, remember when we were doing when we were learning about strings, you remember that when I use this append function, the actual string did not change. The string remained the same. In this case, the actual list actually changed. It changed the value and it added a 5. So this is the meaning of mutable, that lists are editable. You can remove the element, you can add element, you can do multiple operations in it, and it will still take on the values. Same, we have the next function called count, returns the number of elements with specified value. For example, L.count, and I passed 1. Count of 1, that is value 1. Okay, let me take a list. And if I say L.count and I pass 5 here, I'll get 3. Because how many times 5 is there in this list? 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Next, we have extend. Add the elements of a list or any iterable to the end of the current list. It is same as append, but there is a slight difference. Suppose I do this. I want to insert a new list. Suppose what I see, you see I got, okay, I'll just, yeah, you see I got these brackets. But I don't want these brackets. I only want these variables. These values to be inserted in my list L. Instead of that, I got these brackets. So what I will do is, if I use extend now, then if I pass the same values, and mango, and now if I now see, now you see, forget this part, the first part, because it is already there in the list. So this was because of the previous operation. Now you see the character, the values apple and mango got inserted in the list, but not as a list, as individual items of the list, not as a list itself. Okay, so this is the difference between append and extend. Next, we have something called pop. Pop removes the element at the specified position. Now, since our list is long, I want to remove this element. Okay, so what I'll do is L.pop. Okay. Now you might be thinking that what is the position of this apple here and apple there? So let us start counting. 0 for 1, and then the 2 is in the first position, 3 is in the second position, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eighth position is not the position of apple. It is a position of this entire list. See these two commas. The commas will differentiate between the positions. So this position of this entire list is 8, and then apple will be 9 and mango will be 10. So if I say L pop 8, wait, position is 7. Now you can see that the list apple and mango is removed, because this list actually does not define another set of indexing. It is sitting in the same place. That is the 7th position of this list L. So when we pass the index, the position of the element, it removes it. And now our list has has become small and it is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because earlier we removed apple, that's why even apple is removed. But again, you can insert it. So L dot append, and I will put apple. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, mango, apple. Okay. So the next function that we have is reverse. Reverses the order of the list. So simple, we'll just do reverse. Our list will be reversed. That is, the last position element will come to the first, and the first will go to the last, and vice versa. Next, we have remove. Removes the first item with the specified value. Suppose I said, okay, earlier, if it is getting difficult for you to actually position of the element and remove it, you can also pass the element and remove it. Suppose I want to remove. First position. See, all the files cannot be removed at once. It will only remove the first item which it will get first when it is going over the list. The first item it got here is 5. Even though there are 5 remaining in the list, it will not actually consider these values to be removed because the first item is only removed. That's why it removes the first item with the specified value. Now again, if I want to remove the L will not have mango anymore. So apple 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we have something called a sort. Sorts the list. What is sorting? Sorting means suppose we have 1, 3, 7, we have 49, something like that. But we want to sort it in order, in ascending order or descending order. So suppose I write L. Suppose I have a value called, I have another list, suppose 2, I have jumbled value here, 56, it's getting difficult to understand that what is it? Is it ascending order? It is descending order. So I dot sort. By default, it will do it in ascending order. That is from small. So that you can do. In case if you want to do descending order, I think you have to do reverse is equal to true. So now if you do d dot sort, you will get the descending order. What I did here is nothing. I just passed in this method. There are many ways of assigning value. Reverse means reverse of ascending order. It was by default false. That is the descending part was false. So what I did, I explicitly made it true. So now d dot sort became descending order. So 56 is the largest, then 5, 2, 1, and -8. Next, we have something called tuples. Sorry for the technical error. Yeah. Okay, next we have something called tuples. Tuples are immutable version of list. Now here previously you could see that the more manipulation I was doing to the list was getting edited, it was getting removed. But sometimes there is a possibility when you are designing for something for security purpose and you don't want your values to be editable. So for that purpose, there is a system of list called the tuples. Basically what it does, it instead of taking the square brackets, it will take the round brackets. And now I'll put the same values here. 1, 2, 3, and I'll put suppose apple here and mango. Don't forget the quotation marks, otherwise you'll get an error. Okay, now I got a tuple. Just like string, tuples cannot be edited. You cannot do any kind of manipulation. Once declared, you can only take values from there or you can get the indexing, but explicitly you cannot do anything to the tuple. So now but it follows the same rule of indexing. So a of 0 will be 1, a of -1 will be. All these things are there except remove. You cannot use something like remove, suppose. Because attribute error, tuple object has no attribute remove. Why? Because if you remove the value from the tuple, then what is the purpose of immutability? That is the reason the tuple A, does not allow any kind of manipulation in it. So 1, 2, 3, apple and mango, you can only from the other point of view, like for the purpose of using values and all, you can just get the values. But otherwise, you cannot do any kind of manipulation. You cannot remove, you cannot add. Okay. Next we have has mostly same methods like list except item assignments and deletion. You can you cannot assign anything, you cannot delete anything, but you can do something like a dot count. There is only one value of 1 here, so I got count. Other than assignment and deletion, all other possibilities are there, just like so. So this was all about list and tuples, and in case, okay, there is one small thing. Ideally, and I'll move forward to the next part. Okay, a fresh new ideally. That is okay. Here we are. So the next part here is slicing. Well, this can be a little bit difficult for beginners to understand, but Python slicing is about containing a substring or list items from the given string or list by slicing it respectively from start to end. Okay. Suppose I need the part of the string P, P, L, and E. I don't need the first item. So what I will do, I will start from the second position, which is obviously 1. I will, what is the last position? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I put 4 here, the end part, end is exclusive. It will not take the 4 part. It will just take 1, 2, the fourth part will be removed. So what I mean by this is, see, PPLE. So what it does, it took the P from this position, that is the 1, second position P. Why? Because the fourth part is exclusive. It's like greater than and not equal to, just less than. So it's exclusive. So in order to include this E also, what we have to do is we have to put top position 5. So it will take 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth part will be not there because obviously it is exclusive. Do similarly, we can do things with list also. Suppose I want just the second, the 2 and apple. Suppose I want this part. So I'll just take 1, which is the second position, and apple. If you don't put any value at the end, and if you leave it like this, it will automatically assume that you want the end of the string or the list. If you do this, if you don't put anything at all in the list, it will give you the and if you put -1 here, you'll get the first position because this part here means end. Remember, this part here means end. When you end it, the -1 will be excluded from it and it will only take the 1 and 2. This part can be a little bit complicated, so I'm and I'll move forward to dictionaries because of time constraints. So the another data value or data type or data structure in Python, which is very, very important, is dictionaries. So what are dictionaries? We all know what are dictionaries. It has a name. If you go by the English meaning of dictionary, it has a word and it has the meaning of the dictionary. Basically, if you say the words are keys, for example, look at this diagram. If words are keys, then the meaning of these words are its values. Okay, so Python similarly has this kind of data structure where it has something called a key and it has the value. And dictionary does not have any kind of indexing. So let's begin with dictionaries. how do you declare a dictionary? Suppose I want the roll number. Roll, and you have curly braces, and suppose first roll number. First roll number 1 here means the key. This is our key. Suppose. And then our second key, 2. Suppose Ankita. And suppose we have a third roll number, 3. And suppose it's Bob. Okay. Now if you see roll, you'll see 1 Anuj, 2 Ankita, and 3 Bob. This is not the index position. You can actually use any kind of value here, but just for the purpose of simplicity, I'm using 1, 2, and 3. So the 1 here basically means the keys, and the Anuj part here, or the Ankita or the name part here, is basically the values. So in order to get the value of the first roll number, I have to pass the key value. So what is the value of key 1? Anuj. Okay, now you might be wondering that maybe this is the index. Okay, I'll just change it. And I'll make it 21. And I'll make it 13. Okay, now if I do 1, you see, I will get an error. What error did I get? Key error. There is no key as 1. We have the keys that are present in this dictionary as of now is what? 100, 21, and 13 only. So what we will do is, we'll take 100 here and get Anuj. And if I put 21 here, I'll get Ankita. And if I put 13 here, I'll get Bob. So dictionary allows us to access the values, but it does not support any kind of indexing. It works on the basis of key and values. Dictionaries are very helpful for searching. Even the Google algorithm uses dictionaries. In some other languages can be called. It uses a key to identify a value. So it will have a key like our roll number, our ID number, these kind of things, and it will help us identify a value. Okay, so dictionary methods. So what are the methods in dictionary? Suppose I do roll dot keys. What will I get? 100, 21. What are the keys in the dictionary? These 3 values, 100, 21, and 13. So it returns a list containing the dictionary's keys. We have values. Roll dot value. What should I get? Anuj, Ankita, and yes, this is what I got. Anuj, Ankita. Don't worry about this part. This is because this is a dictionary. It will not give you the list explicitly. So now if I use a print statement, I think it should give me the list of tuples. No, okay. Okay, ideally this part will not do any portion. So what is it? Is returning a tuple. Forget this part, a tuple, that is a rounded bracket tuple of list of the values. Okay. Next we have pop, removes the element with the specified key. So now if I say roll dot pop, and now if I pass 100, it will remove Anuj. So now if I see roll again, I'll see the 100th key with Anuj is deleted. It's not there. It's removed, I mean. Next we have update. Updates the dictionary with specified key value pairs. There is, suppose I want to add new roll number. There is a way of doing this simply by roll, and I just pass any key. Suppose 20, so 30. And if I assign it a value, suppose now if I see roll again, I'll see a new name Charlie is. Dictionaries are also mutable. That is why you can edit it, manipulate it many times. So this is a way of assigning values to the dictionary. But suppose I want many key value pairs at once. So for that, I'll use something called update. Update. And pass the value. For example, I want roll number 12. Suppose it's Sita. And these are just arbitrary values. Okay. So now if I see roll again, now you see that these new values, these new key values are added. This 12, roll number 12 and 92. So now, even though we have added this at the end of the list, at the end of the operation, I mean, I added actually Charlie first. So ideally, Sita and Fatima should come here, but Charlie went that side. That is because dictionary doesn't support indexing. The order does not matter. It can be arranged at any time. Every time you, it doesn't matter. There is no indexing, so don't worry about this. The only way to access the value is using the keys. So roll 92 means 92, and it will give me the value fast. So there is no issue of using indexing. Remember the position. All you need is a key and its value. Okay. And there's something called returns items. Returns. Okay. Even though they are written in capital letter, they should all be in small case. Remember that. Items returns a list containing a tuple for each key value. Okay. So what it means is if I say roll dot items, I will get something like this. So what it's giving me a list of ordered tuples. Okay, I'll just maximize this. You can see I'll get a tuple. First tuple is the key 21 and Ankita. Second is again the key and the Sita. And then 92 again the key and the value, key value. So what is it's giving me a list with small ordered tuples. So this is what that is how you access all the items in a dictionary. Okay. So this was all about dictionary, and I hope you have understood this part. So I'll move forward to the next data structure, which is the set. So I'll close this and I'll start a new ideally. So sets or set one. We all have studied sets in class 11, class 12. Sets are nothing but a collection which is unordered and unindexed, just like dictionary. In Python, sets are written with curly. Sets contains a list of values, but remember this, that sets cannot have duplicate values, just like sets in mathematics. Okay. So now let me declare a set called A, which is nothing but 1, 2, 3, and apple. Okay. So now if I do type was what earlier I told you to see what type of class it is in. So if I do A, I'll get set. Obviously, A is an object of class set. Okay. Now, you cannot access items in a set by referring to an index. If I do A of 0 in list but 1, but here I'll get an error. Set object does not support indexing. So remember, in order to access any kind of value in set, you cannot pass. You cannot access items in a set by referring to an index. Since sets are unordered, the items has no indexing. Because obviously sets are not actually, even though it looks like, if I press, even though it looks like it is one ordered way, but actually it is not in ordered way, and they are actually scattered in the memory in a way. And only way to bring them together is using some of these methods. To add an item to a set, use the add method. So since there is no indexing, how will you add it? A dot add. And suppose I want to add something like ball. So this is a set. Remember, this is not a list, this is not a dictionary, this is just a set. And now suppose I want to delete it. So A dot pop. And if I just, now I'll pass apple here. Yes. Pop does not take any item. A dot pop, to remove an item, use pop method. So ideally it will just remove the first the item which is in the first position. Next we have union. Union means, we all know what union is, right? Because we have seen those Venn diagrams in which union means, okay, suppose I'll just take an example. Suppose I took set 1. value 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now if I do set 1 union set 2, I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because even in algebra, when we were learning this in class 11 and 12, we knew that union is all the values, okay? And it will not take duplicate values, even though 3 are here, but it will what it will do, it will take 1, 2, 3 and all the common elements. And we have something called intersection also, which means to take the common elements. So set 1 dot intersection set 2. Okay, what we got? 3 and 4. Yes, because 3 and 4 are the only common elements between set 1 and set 2. Next, we have symmetric difference also. Symmetric difference means all the values in set 1 which are not there in set 2. So if I say set 1 dot symmetric, this is a long method, symmetric difference set 2. Okay, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. All the elements which are there in set 1, not in set 2. The values 3 and 4 are there in set 1 and not in set 2. So this part will be removed. The common elements are removed and only 1, 2. This is same as our, there is no programming logic here. This is same as the set algebra that we do in Next, we have subset and superset. Contains if, subset or superset of each other. So now if I do set 1 dot is subset of set 2. No, obviously it is not a subset because set 1 has some other values and set 2 has a greater value. So now let me do one thing. Let me take set 2 as a subset means a portion of this set. So 1, 2, 3, 2, comma 3. So this is a subset. Yes, it is a subset. So let's see if it gives true. Set 1 dot is, okay, set 2. The subset that we want to compare it with is subset and set 1. Yes, because set 2 contains 2, 3 and set 1 contains 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously set 1, set 2 is the subset of set 2. Now you can do something called superset, because that is obviously set 1 is a superset of set 2 because it contains all the values that are there in set 2 and even the extra values. So is superset of set 2. Because set 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4 and set 2 has 2, 3. So obviously set 1 is superset. So this was all about sets, and sets, nothing really difficult about this. They have already, the name of the methods are also very simple, easier to remember, like there is union, intersection. These are same the ones that we have learned in our class 11, 12 also, and even after. So this was all about the basic data structure of Python. Now on the remaining slides, the last some last 8 slides, I will be talking about conditionals, if-else statements, for loop, and some extra stuff. So let's move forward. Okay, I will close this ideally and I will start a fresh one. So all this time we were typing the program in the this shell. So now we'll do some actual programming. We'll do, okay. Conditions. Conditions: if, else if, else. So conditions are nothing but a condition. For example, suppose we have this. We all know that in order to vote, we have to be 18 years and above. So if I write age is greater than, I forgot to write the equal to here. Age is greater than or equal to 18, and if condition is true, we are eligible for voting. And if we are not 18 and if condition false, we are not eligible for voting. So the Python if structure is also goes like that. First we have the if expression. Elif means else if. So we don't write else if here, just like C, but we write elif expression here. And we can have as many else if elif possible, but if and else will be of single type. Okay, let us code this program, this condition. Okay, for this you go to file and type new file. Okay, so now I have a new file here. So you see this triple extraction insertion sign is not there because this is now a file. This is not the shell. Okay. Suppose the question is uh, write a program to check if a boy is eligible. Is eligible for. This is a comment, so this will not come in the actual program, and this is the actual use of comment in order to in order to for the programmer's ease to know what the program is all about. Okay, one thing that I haven't talked about till now, we have seen the print statement. We know how to print something in the console, but how to take input from the user? For that, we have something called input. Simple input function. So what we will do, suppose I want to take the age. Okay, I'll delete this. I want to take the age. The age will be taken as an input from the user. Ideally, the input statement actually takes in string. It doesn't takes in any kind of integer. So what we do, remember earlier I told you that we can use something like int to convert it to an X. So int can be used to convert strings to integer as well. So here what we did, we'll take the input, which will be in the form of string. Obviously, we'll take in a digit. We'll not actually take a sentence. We'll take a string of digits, and we will convert it into integer. So now, I'll check if my age is greater than or equal to 18. The moment I press enter after this semicolon, you can see I have moved this much space. So whatever I write now will be the condition of if. So print, what will I print? Eligible for voting. Okay. Okay. Else, if I'm not above 18 or obviously if I'm of smaller age, I would write not eligible. So this much program you have to write. So see, Python is simple, syntax is simple. Even there is no necessity to declare something like hash include iostream. All these things are not here. Simply just put the part simple syntax is there, and you can simply just put it. It's completely beginner friendly. Now what we have to do is we have to save this. I will quickly save this. I'll save it, and you can save it in any. So I'll save it. Already you can see there is a Python files here, so I don't have to use any. Ideally, it should be age.py, but we don't need that since because it's recognizing already. So I'll do save. Okay. Now I will do run. So for run, you can press F5 also, but I'll press it from here. Okay. Now the screen, the ideally a screen is not showing me these two lines. It is showing prompting for me to enter a value, that is the age. So what I do, I did 17. Not eligible. Why? Because the first condition becomes false. My age is not greater than equal to 18. It is 17. So the next part, which is the else, executed. I will again run this. Okay, this time I'll do 23. Eligible for voting, because this part, if age is greater than equal to 18, this part was satisfied. This part is becomes true, and then we got eligible for voting. Okay, all about if condition. Now let's take another small program. Suppose even it's program to check if a number is even or odd. Okay, this is a very common program. So I'll remove this part. So I'll just take a number. Now what we have to do is we have to we'll declare a variable. We'll not declare it. Actually, even though it looks like we're declaring it, but all we have to do is we'll take the input and it will automatically detect it. So suppose I take num equals to, and since we'll do this input, but this will be on string. So in order to convert it into an integer, we'll take int here. Okay. So now whatever the number it will be converted to a integer. So if my num, so so in order to build logic for detecting even or odd, we all know that if a number is divisible by 2, it is even, otherwise it is odd. So decimal value, it will give me the quotient. It is not actually giving me the remainder. So in order to give me the remainder, what we need to use is the modulus operation. Earlier, when we were discussing arithmetic operations, I told you about this modulus function, which gives us the remainder. So obviously, if the remainder is 0, that means it is completely the number. So if num modulus 2 equal, okay, you can write is or you can write double equal to, but since it's mathematical, I'll put double equal to 0. Okay, if the number remainder is 0, print even. Otherwise, else print odd. Okay, I have saved it again and I'll run it again. So it is asking me for a value, so I'll give 12. Even. Obviously, because 12 is an even number and it's completely divisible by 2. I will run it again and this time I'll put 23. I will get odd because 23 is not divisible by 2 and it is an odd number. Okay. So the next thing that we are going to study is loops. Loops, as you can see, is nothing but an action which is done one after the another. So there are two types of loops in Python, which is a for loop and the while loop. So with loops, we can execute a set of statements as long as condition is true. So first loop that we are going to study here is the while loop. So, okay. Suppose we want to print the multiples of 2. We cannot just keep on writing print 2, print 4, print 6. This is a very hectic. What if we need 100 multiples? For that, we'll use loops. So loops will allow us to execute a set of statement one after the. So write a program to print multiples of 2. So what we do is we don't have to take any input. Simply for the while loop, we'll take I is equals to 1. What it does is we want from 1 to suppose the 10th multiple. So 2 ones are 2, 2 the 3 till 10, which is 2 tens are 20. So we'll first declare an I. I'll explain it what it means. We'll write while I is less than or equal to 10. Is equal to I plus 1. Okay. Now, first let me run this program. Okay. Okay. What did we get here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. This is what the purpose of I was. What the I is doing, I has first gotten a value of 1. We wrote a condition. Run this program how many times? As long as the value of I is less than or equal to. We printed I into 2. So the first value of I was 1. So 1 into 2 means 2. So that is the value that we got here. Yeah. So this is the value that we got here. And what we did is if we didn't write the statement that I is equal to I plus 1, the I will never get incremented. It will stay as 1 only. And this loop will keep on running forever. So in order to increment the value, let's increase the value of I, we wrote I is equal to I plus 1. That is I first will become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, as long as it is 10. If you wrote less than 10, it will take till 9. Obviously, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 9 is less than 10, and the condition will become false after 10 is not less than 10. So we wrote this. And now if I run it again, obviously I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 20. So I got all the multiples of 2. Same thing can be done using the loop called for loop. So for loop is for loop. So here's pretty much lots of explanation here, but simply I'll explain it. The for loop, what it does is same like else, but all it does is it takes I here for I in range. It takes a value, it takes a function called range, and range basically means the range of values that we want. How many values do we want? We want the 10 multiples of 2. So we take 1 and we take 10. Now, range function, just like slicing, has a limitation. The 10th value is actually exclusive. So if you write 10 here, it will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 10th value will not get executed. So what it means, I'll just run this. You see, I got till 18, that is 9 into 2 into 9. We didn't get this value 20 since because I wrote 10 here. 10 is exclusive. Till 1 to 9 only it will run. So I will have to run 11 here in order to get that. 10 and 11 will be exclusive. So now if I run the programs, you see I got all the values including 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 and 20. So this was all about for and while. And because of time constraints, I'm not explaining many other things, but that for I in range. And for can be used with list also. So suppose I write for I in the list 1, 2, 3, and if I pass I, so I will now take the value of 1 and 2 and 3. So now if I run, I'll get 1, 2, 3, and this is nothing but the value that is in the list. So I takes the value of 1, 2, and 3 accordingly. So this was all about for loop. Function. So what does function do? Okay, I'll close this. I'll open the same program again. So the methods, functions are nothing but a function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. You can pass data known as parameters into the function. A function can return data as a result. Okay, we'll read this later. Now we'll just go to a simple explanation. Sometimes there is a need. Okay. There's a need of using a same block of code over and over again. Now, when we were studying dictionaries, we saw that there is update function, there is pop function. You saw there were two parentheses, two brackets, and the code of this program is already written somewhere inside the class of dictionary or in the list function. So we don't have to write the code of pop every time we use pop again because the function is already written. That is the purpose of function. Code reusability, so that we can use a code whenever we need it. So how we make a function? We write def. Def means defining the function. Def my function. And suppose I need a function to print my name every time I call it. So print Harry. Now it is over. Now if I call the function here, this is how we call it. That is function. Okay. Now if I run it again, you see I get Harry here. You saw? That is how we are calling it. And the number of times we call it, the number of times it will run. So I'll copy this and paste it 5 times. 6 times. Harry, 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 Harry. 6 times. So I'll run the module. And you saw I got Harry 6 times. This is nothing to do like loops, but just like it allows us to use the same piece of block of code over and over again. You can explicitly put your name as well in the, here suppose I pass a name. This is nothing but an argument which allows us to put value to the hello, and I'll pass my name. So what it does is it will take the value from the user, pass it in the print function there, hello, and it will put it here. So what I mean by this is I'll tell my function and now I'll put my name. So hello and Harry. And now if I save it and run it, suppose I have my friend's name. Suppose you want to put your friend's name. I'll put here John. Three times, three different values. It will not obviously show me Harry all the time. That is the beauty of functions. It allows us to use the same function and with the different values all every time. When I run it, I will get hello Harry, hello John, hello Rita. So this is the function. This is the allows us to use the same block of code for many purposes. So information can be passed into functions as, so this is nothing but arguments. This is called arguments. Okay. So this was all about the nitty-gritty of Python. So now we have something called import module, and I'll quickly go over this. I'll close this ideally. and I'll open a new one. So modules are nothing but Python libraries, just like C, where we have stdio.h or iostream.h. There are modules in Python. In order to do that, we'll do import. Import math. Math is a library in Python. So the sqrt function is defined under math. So if I write math.sqrt, pass 4, I'll get 2, obviously. I'll get 1.41, and it's a huge value. It will give me the exact value till many precisions, like to 10th or 11th precision. Then we have pi also. So if I write math.pi, I will get 3.144. So suppose I want to find the area of a square. So 2 pi, which is nothing but math pi r square. Suppose my radius is 20 square in the sense, okay, I'll add it 2 times. What is this? This is nothing but pi and my radius. So you can use the value of pi. You can obviously put 3.14 by yourself. But if you want a very high, next we have something called a random value. So import random. And random will allow us to generate random values when you are playing card games or when you are playing games. That time it is import random.random. Any number in between 1 to 20 will be generated randomly. So if I do this 14, if I do this 8, if I do this 5, if I do this 4. So every time I execute this statement, I'm getting a random value like that. And next we have import date time. So there is something called, you can see the date time also. So if I write you can see that what is a, so this is nothing but the computer time, but focus on this part, 2026-11 year, and then this part is the time, that is 18, that is now is 6:52 and millisecond count. So you can see date time allows us to see the current time. Current time is a very precise. Next we have something called exception handling. So I'll just give you a simple small example of exception handling. Sometimes there is a possibility of zero division error. And what I mean to say is, suppose I divide 2 by 0. You see, 2 is obviously not divisible by 0. That is the reason we got a division by 0 error. But when you are building a software or something like that, you cannot show this line. This will look very bad. So in order to surpass this error message, we can use try and escape. So try. Suppose I'll take a value. Suppose I took a value from the user. Suppose int, and I took a value input. So what will take? And I will multiply this value, and even I'll divide a number with this value. And if this value is 0, the message that sorry, division by 0 is not possible. So I will try. I will write suppose 12 by the value that I passed. Okay, so in try portion, what you write is you test a block of code for the users, the actual code, and accept what you write here, print. In case any error, like if in case the zero division error is there, we write division by 0 not. Okay. And if I run this program, yeah, it is asking me for a value. Now, if I write 0 here, instead of showing me that gruesome error message here, that had zero division error, something, it's showing me 0. Division by 0 is not allowed. So this is the purpose of try and escape. And since now we are running out of time, there was a simple drawing method with turtle. So turtle is nothing but something like logo that we have done when we were small. So quickly, I will just write a small program for you to understand. You can go forward. So from turtle, earlier when I was using the import statement, I was just, you can write import turtle, but this statement allows us to remove the turtle dot part and just use the function explicitly. Don't worry about the logic of this program. This is just for a little bit fun. Forward, I will write forward. Forward 200 basically means that it will go 200 spaces. 200, it will draw a line which will be of length 200. As far as the left, I'll write 170, which is the angle, and okay, stop it in the origin. It is less than 1, and I'll break this, and I'll end the fill. So break statement, what that does is, when while true means it will run infinitely, because true is a true value, it cannot be changed. So but in case the position of the cursor or the position of the logo, which will appear now, you'll see in a short minute, if it is in the center, it will break from the loop. So break statement allows us to break from a loop when a specified condition is satisfied. So I will save this and I will run the program. You see a beautiful geometric shape is going to made. This is running as long as the condition is true. It is going forward and it is making an angle of 170 every time. Color blue. The moment it reached the position less than 0, that is the origin, it has stopped the drawing and the portion end fill, it is satisfied. The red color is there. So this red color was there, and the done window is used for the turtle to stop. So this was all about turtle. So I could have explained, but now we are running short of time. Okay, I'll show you another program. New file. Okay. Suppose I want to draw a square. So what I'll do, okay, if I do this, import turtle. Okay, I'll write while true. Forwards the number of the length that you want for the square. So it can be 200, 300. Okay, I'll just make it 400. What is the angle of a square? Obviously, it's 90. Just leave it like this. It will keep on running forever until unless the computer shuts itself off. So that is the reason we have to use the break statement in order to break out of the loop. An absolute value basically means that the position, if it's negative, it will be brought back to positive value and we will get a break. So this will basically draw a square. So let's see, let's run this. Okay, there is, okay, yeah. So what we have done in this program is we didn't write from turtle import. We have simply write import turtle. So what we have to do is we have to use this turtle dot. Earlier when we use from turtle dot star, that time the turtle dot part was not required. Okay. Okay, we will move this part also because we are not using any color, and we'll run this. Okay, I got it. It's because of the position. I guess the turtle will have some, okay, we'll just simply move this here. Some error is coming. We'll just say from turtle. We'll import all the modules and there's no need to explicitly name them because sometimes inside of modules. So turtle dot turtle, something like that can be there. In order to, I'll just do star, so it will import all the modules and okay, now I'll run it. is giving me an error. Yeah, just write the previous. Okay. Okay. I think there's a problem with turtle in this one. Okay, anyways, let us leave this because I think there's some error with the graphic resolution in this computer. Okay, we'll end this session here. And I would like to thank ISHRE Speaks to 2020 and ISHRE Kolhapur Sangli sub-chapter for giving me this opportunity to conduct this online seminar with the Python programming language. And I hope all of you have understood and learned something, if not 100%, even if 50% is there, then it's okay. I'm happy. And with this, I will end the seminar today because we are absolutely out of time and it's already 2 hours. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. And I hope you all do well in this pandemic. And thank you for being here. Thank you.